οι οποίες έχουν δεσμευτεί να συνεργάζονται για την ειρήνη και την ευημερία.
The European Union is a family of democratic European countries.
Az Európai Unió EU olyan demokratikus európai országok családja.
Den Europæiske Union er en familie af demokratisk.
Die der Wahrung des Friedens und dem Streben nach Wohlstand verschrieben haben.
En familj av demokratiska europeiska länder.
L'Unione Europea è una famiglia di paesi europei democratici.
À la paix et la prospérité.
Let us introduce ourselves. We are the interpreters who work for the institutions of the European Union. You will find us at the Commission in the Directorate General for Interpretation, more familiarly known as the SCIC, an acronym from the past which stuck. Every day in Brussels, there are 50 to 60 meetings for which the SCIC provides interpretation. There is a staff of 500 to draw upon, plus several thousand freelancers, of whom a good 300 will be recruited on any one day. In its most basic form, our job consists of interpreting for two persons using two languages. The interpretation can be provided discreetly in a whisper when one is working for just 2 or 3 people, but if the group is bigger, then we take notes while the speaker is talking, and then provide what is known as a consecutive interpretation. This is done not in a whisper, but into the microphone. In fact, on some memorable occasions, it has to be declaimed for the benefit of a large audience. In its most complex form, our job consists of working as part of a team in simultaneous interpretation. Here we may be working not in 2 languages, but in 22. None of the founding fathers could possibly have envisaged an evolution on this scale. It all started in a relatively simple way, with 6 nations, 4 languages and a handful of interpreters. The first step on the road was the Paris Treaty, 1952, which created the High Authority for Steel and Coal. Then in 1956, meeting in Venice, the foreign ministers of the Six decided to set up an intergovernmental conference to draft the texts of what was to become the Rome Treaty. Note that the meeting is served here by a team of just 2 interpreters. Belgium offered to host this conference, and so it was that the Château VideoSCIC became the scene of a marathon that was to run for 10 months. Interpretation was indispensable for French and German, and this was provided by a total of 6 interpreters, working in conditions which seem primitive indeed by today's standards. If you visit VideoSCIC today, you will be shown the rooms which hosted that first conference of 6 nations. There is a plaque on the wall thanking all those who contributed here to the uniting of Europe. But if the daily work of the conference was conducted in 2 languages, the commemorative plaque is engraved in all 4 languages of the community. Here it is in a nutshell, the difference between the practical and the ceremonial, which was to be a constant feature of community life. Nothing could have been more ceremonial than the signing of the Rome Treaty in March 1957. There were speeches and there was interpretation in the language of every member state. This was perceived to be a vital aspect of equality between nations, and the principle was to be enshrined in the first Council regulation of 1958. For the principle to be put into practice, it was essential for the embryonic language service to expand, and since candidates were hard to find, there began an in-house training scheme run by staff interpreters, which provided a reliable source of recruitment. But if it was difficult then, in the 1960s, to find qualified interpreters, imagine the challenge that lay ahead as the family expanded. In 1973, Denmark, Ireland and the United Kingdom joined the family, bringing with them Danish and English. There were now 9 member states and 6 official languages. In 1981, the Hellenic Republic joined the community. There were now 10 member states and a 7th official language. By this stage, the SCIC was sending interpreters out to universities in the member states to help train and recruit young talent, for example in Madrid and Lisbon, because another accession was on the horizon. So it was that in 1986, Spain and Portugal joined the community. 12 member states, 9 official languages. A further 2 languages had to be catered for as of 1995, when Austria, Finland and Sweden joined the community. There were now 15 member states and 11 official languages. Then in 2004 came the massive accession of 10 countries: the Czech Republic, Cyprus, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia. 25 member states and 20 languages. And in 2007, the Union was joined by Bulgaria and Romania, bringing the grand total to 27 member states and, including Irish, 23 languages. How has the SCIC faced up to the challenge? Firstly, by helping the candidate countries train interpreters and then recruiting them. Secondly, by encouraging staff interpreters to learn new languages. And with a mixture of both, it becomes possible to run a meeting in a great many languages. Much of the work is done directly, but two-way interpretation and relay are necessary. For example, this Polish interpreter may work 2 ways. He will interpret into Polish for his delegate, but when the delegate speaks, then the Polish interpreter will put the speech into English, thereby enabling all the other colleagues in the team to interpret on relay into their own language, German, Italian, and so on. So it can be done, provided the human resources are available, and the premises. The architecture of such premises is a challenge in itself, so much so that it has been suggested in Council that rather than build vast meeting rooms with wall-to-wall booths, one might go for remote interpretation. Under this option, the team would work from screens at a separate location and so release much-needed space in the meeting room itself. Technically speaking, this can be done, but it is costly in equipment and manpower, and more importantly, most interpreters feel it is a dehumanizing experience which detracts from their ability to communicate. It would not be possible or even desirable to provide full language coverage on every occasion. For the vast range of meetings attended by officials and experts, the policy is simply to match needs with resources. Nowadays, many people are able to get by in English, some better than others, but they are invariably pleased when interpretation is provided, enabling them to slip into something more comfortable. As a rule of thumb, however, priority is given to elected representatives, the ministerial councils, for example, or official visits where a full team of interpreters is provided. So, it's been 50 years since it all began. The initial handful of interpreters has grown into the biggest service in the world, and since the European institutions are committed to the principle of multilingualism, that is how business will continue to be conducted until there is a change of heart, if ever that should happen.
Ruská unia jest
Down at the Tower of Babel, there's a place where no one